Perched on the side of my bed, I held a dusty photo album that included countless images of James and me spanning our lives. The burden of what we'd gone through weighed me down, even if it was meant to provide solace. I never expected his mother, Sarah, to be our greatest obstacle when I was 28 years old. She was more than just an annoyance. She dragged our relationship down into the depths of despair, making me wonder how much longer I could take. I had been infatuated with James since we were in high school. I was immediately taken by his innocent charisma and dogged determination the instant we crossed paths. We were able to maintain a close friendship even after attending universities in different states. Sarah was always there, though, even in those early days. Prior to our formal meeting, she already had reservations about me. Her extreme possessiveness and domineering nature toward her two sons became immediately apparent to me. Nobody was good enough for her, and I was no exception. I paused at a picture of a youthful James wearing a tuxedo as I turned the page of the album. The tension in my chest tightened as I gestured towards the empty spot next to it. "Do you remember prom?" Without being able to conceal my voice's sharpness, I inquired. As he sat down next to me, James let out a heavy sigh. "Oh, I do recall my mom's trip to Venice. She felt she was doing an act of devotion for me." No one could have missed the obvious hint of remorse and resentment in his voice. The memory was still vivid, so I scoffed. "Is it unique?" "Our prom date was ruined by her plot to go on that vacation. You pleaded with her to cancel it, James." "I was a kid," he whispered, his voice nearly contrite. "I didn't know how to stand up to her then." With a sigh, I pressed the album's close button, the pain of that moment lingering in my heart. Sarah tried numerous times to undermine our plans, and the trip to Venice was only one of them. Her dislike for me was evident from the moment James took me home to meet his family. She cut me off by making disparaging comments about my background, looks, and aspirations, in addition to offering subtle compliments. Her hostile demeanor only escalated with time. She was controlling, and I wasn't the only one who had to cope with it. It had also been undergone by John, James's elder brother, a woman of strong will who would not submit to Sarah's control. He wed Emma. John chose to cut all ties with Sarah after the animosity between them escalated. Emma was there for me through thick and thin. She had been through Sarah's toxic presence and could relate. Standing up to Sarah wasn't easy, but she assured me it was doable. My aggravation finally bubbled over one evening when I resorted to James, following another draining call from Sarah. "Why do you always let her do this?" I turned to face the kitchen and asked. While massaging his temples, he rested his head on the counter. "The way Emily is, you know. In her mind, she is doing a service." "Helping?" Disbelievingly, I exclaimed, "by finding fault with our every decision, ignoring my worth at every turn." As James's tone softened, he appeared protective. "She's my mom, and I'm not claiming it's right. All she does is fret over my well-being." "She expresses no concern for you?" I retorted more strongly. "She worries about losing control over you." Even when the debate came to an end, the tension continued. Even while I knew James loved his mom, I could see that his devotion was preventing him from seeing the harm she was bringing. However, I persisted in my efforts to maintain harmony. Sarah would make unending criticisms during family events, so I learned to hold my mouth and smile graciously in her presence. I should have known better than to include her in the wedding planning process in the hopes that it would make her feel more invested. It became a nightmare instead. Sarah attempted to undermine James and my every decision by criticizing my retro theme as tacky. Our wedding day was the last straw. Sarah arrived dressed in what appeared to be a bridal gown, a white lace gown. I wanted to confront her, but was too angry to do so. Sarah was offered a pale blue dress that I had discreetly bought for this same occasion by my best friend and maid of honor. Sarah reluctantly accepted it, saying she was unaware her outfit could be problematic. For the sake of James, I persevered through instances like this, which challenged my patience. I started to discover my voice as time went on. I attempted to establish limits with Sarah, but she disregarded the majority of them. James had a hard time confronting her head-on, even though he loved me. He made excuses for her behavior, claiming that her domineering traits sprang from love. It failed to persuade me. When I learned I was pregnant, my world turned upside down. We were ecstatic, James and I. For an instant, I wished the news may make Sarah more understanding as I envisioned a wonderful future for our expanding family. Despite my reluctance, James was adamant that I tell her right now. That hope was crushed by her reaction. Now a baby, she spoke with an air of aggression, demanding to know why he was moving so quickly. In a flash, her mistrust transformed into open animosity. Whether or not the kid was James's, she said I had trapped him with it. The words stunned me. While her dramatic outbursts weren't new, this was a new low. James tried to defend me, but I could see her words had left a mark on him too. For weeks, Sarah bombarded us with calls, alternating between scathing insults and tearful pleas. I hoped she would come around, but her behavior only escalated. Then one evening, Sarah arrived at our home unannounced. She carried a bag of baby gifts and wore a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. James seemed relieved, interpreting her gesture as a sign of acceptance. I wasn't so sure. "Emily, dear," she said sweetly, handing me a mug of tea. "I made this for you. It'll help you relax. You should be careful with all the stress. It's not good for the baby." I accepted the mug hesitantly, my instincts screaming that something wasn't right. Sarah sat across from me, her eyes watching every movement as James sipped his own tea. Max, our playful retriever, trotted into the room. As I lifted the mug to my lips, Max sniffed it curiously. Before I could react, he knocked it over, laughing at the spilled tea on the floor. "Max!" I exclaimed, pulling him away. But it was too late. For a moment, Sarah's expression faltered, her smile slipping. She quickly recovered, forcing a laugh. "Oh, silly dog." My heart raced as I cleaned up the mess, unease prickling at the back of my mind. At first, Max seemed fine, but within an hour he began showing signs of distress. He whimpered and staggered, leaving James and me no choice but to rush him to the vet. As we waited anxiously in the clinic, the vet's somber words confirmed my worst fears. "We found traces of a substance in Max's system," he explained. "It could have been ingested from something he ate or drank. He's stable for now, but this could have been serious." A chill ran down my spine. I thought about the tea, Sarah's strange behavior, and the peculiar carton I'd seen earlier in the kitchen. Could it be? When we returned home, I confronted Sarah. "What did you put in the tea?" I demanded, my voice shaking. Her face turned pale, but she quickly masked it with indignation. "How dare you accuse me of something like that?" James, standing between us, looked confused and torn. "Mom, what's going on?" I didn't back down. Max could have died, Sarah. "I want the truth." The room fell into a heavy silence, the weight of my accusation hanging in the air. "I did nothing wrong," she finally said, her voice trembling. But I wasn't convinced, and judging by James's expression, neither was he. The seeds of doubt had been planted. I couldn't shake the unease gnawing at me after Max's close call. The tea, Sarah's suspicious behavior, and the strange carton in the pantry kept replaying in my mind. I knew in my gut that it wasn't just an innocent coincidence. Sarah was lying. Even though James hadn't said much, the look in his eyes told me he was starting to believe it too. The following days were tense. Sarah's calls to James became relentless, alternating between tearful pleas and angry accusations. I could see how conflicted he was. Each conversation drained him, but he couldn't bring himself to block her entirely. Meanwhile, I felt trapped, knowing something had to be done, but lacking the proof to confront her fully. Then, a week later, While tidying up the kitchen, I noticed something tucked behind the cereal boxes. My heart skipped a beat as I pulled out a small carton. It wasn't our usual oat milk. The partially torn label revealed it wasn't milk at all. It was a liquid supplement with ingredients I didn't recognize. My hands trembled as I turned it over, trying to make sense of it. "James," I called, my voice shaking. He rushed in, concern etched across his face. "What is it?" I held up the carton. She brought this into our house." He took it from me, frowning as he examined it. "What is this?" "I don't know," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "But it's not oat milk, and it's not something we would have bought." The realization hit James like a freight train. His expression darkened as he stared at the carton. "You think this is what she put in the tea?" "I'm almost certain," I said. "We need to find out what it is." Determined to get answers, we took the carton to a local lab for testing. The waiting felt endless, but when the results came back a few days later, they confirmed our worst fears. The liquid contained a substance that wasn't immediately deadly, but could cause severe harm in significant quantities, especially to someone pregnant or with a weakened immune system. I sat in stunned silence, staring at the report in my hands. "She did this," I whispered. "She tried to hurt me and the baby." James was quiet for a long moment before he spoke. His voice was low and filled with anger. "I can't believe this. My own mother." I reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. "She's not the person you thought she was, James. I'm so sorry, but we need to act now before she does something worse." Confronting Sarah wasn't something I wanted to do alone, and thankfully James agreed. We reached out to John. Knowing his relationship with Sarah gave him valuable perspective. He agreed to join us, bringing Emma along for support. The four of us sat waiting in the living room when Sarah arrived. Her surprise at seeing John and Emma was evident, but she quickly masked it with her usual confidence. "What's going on?" she asked, her eyes darting between us. "Sit down, Mom," James said, his voice steady but firm. "We need to talk." She hesitated before taking a seat, her posture defensive. I sat across from her, clutching the lab report tightly. My heart pounded as James began. "We found this," he said, holding up the carton. "It was in our pantry. The lab tested it. Do you want to explain why you brought it into our home?" Sarah's face paled, but she quickly recovered, feigning ignorance. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me, Mom," James said, his voice rising. "We know what it is. We know what it could have done." For a brief moment, her facade cracked. Panic flashed across her face, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. She straightened her shoulders and said, "I was trying to protect you." Her voice trembled with indignation. "Emily is changing you, James. She's taking you away from me. I had to do something." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Anger surged through me as I leaned forward. "You are willing to hurt your own grandchild to protect him? Do you even hear yourself?" Sarah's tears began to flow, but they felt rehearsed. She turned to James, her voice breaking. "I did it for you. Don't you see that? She's manipulating you just like Emma manipulated John." John shot to his feet, his face red with anger. "That's enough, Mom. You've been doing this for years, and we're done letting you control us." James's expression was a mixture of heartbreak and fury as he stood. "You've crossed a line, Mom. I can't forgive this. I won't." Sarah's sobs grew louder, but they didn't sway him. He reached for my hand, and together we left the room. As the door closed behind us, I felt a wave of relief. It wasn't over yet, but it was a start. We had taken the first step toward protecting our family and reclaiming our peace. Later that evening, James sat on the couch, staring blankly at the wall. Max lay at his feet, a quiet reminder of what we had almost lost. I joined him, resting a hand on his shoulder. "Talk to me," I urged softly. He sighed deeply, his voice thick with emotion. "How did it come to this, Em? She's my mom. She raised me. How could she?" "I know this isn't easy," I said gently, "but what she did, there's no excuse for it. She put her child at risk, and Max, she crossed a line, and we can't let her back in." James turned to me, his expression filled with guilt. "I feel like I failed. I let her treat you this way for so long because I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to believe it." I cupped his face in my hands, forcing him to meet my eyes. "You didn't fail, James. You saw the truth when it mattered most, and now we take the steps to make sure she can't hurt us again." The first thing we did was change the locks on the house. By the afternoon, I finally felt a sense of security, knowing Sarah no longer had access to our home. We also blocked her number and informed close family and friends about what had happened. John and Emma were fully supportive, though they warned us about Sarah's potential retaliation. "She'll try to manipulate everyone she can," John said during a call. "She'll twist the story to make herself the victim. Be ready for that." James sighed. "She's been doing that my whole life, hasn't she? I just didn't see it." John's tone softened. "We both wanted to believe the best about her, but at some point you'd have to protect the people who matter most." James thanked him, though I could see the mix of gratitude and regret on his face. There was no undoing the past, but I hoped he understood. We were moving forward together. As the days passed, Sarah's attempts to reconnect with us became more desperate. Word trickled down through family members that she was spinning a new story, claiming she was the victim of misunderstandings and unfair treatment. But this time her words carried little weight. Everyone now knew the truth. To my relief, most of the family sided with James and me. Even John, who had distanced himself from Sarah years ago, remained resolute. "She's only doing this because she's lost her grip on us," he told James during a phone call. "Don't let her guilt you into letting her back in." James agreed, though I could see how hard it was for him. Guilt had been a constant presence in his life, ingrained by Sarah over the years. Still, he reminded himself of the danger she had posed, not just to me but to our unborn child. The final test of our resolve came one crisp autumn afternoon. I was 8 months pregnant, and we'd spent the day running errands and picking up last-minute baby supplies. As we pulled into the driveway, my stomach dropped at the sight of a figure sitting on our porch. It was Sarah. James parked the car and immediately turned to me. "Stay here," he said, his jaw tightening. "I'll handle this." I nodded, though my heart was pounding. Watching him step out of the car and approach her filled me with both dread and relief. This was his moment to draw the line. "James," Sarah said, her voice trembling as she stood. She looked thinner, her hair unkempt. For a moment, she almost seemed fragile. "I just wanted to talk." "There's nothing to talk about, Mom," James replied, his tone cold but steady. "You're not welcome here." "I've changed," she pleaded, her eyes filling with tears. "I know I made mistakes, but I've been working on myself. I want to make things right." James crossed his arms, unmoved. "Working on yourself doesn't undo what you did. You put Emily and our baby in danger, and that's something I'll never forgive." Her visage hardened as fast as her tears had disappeared. "Hasn't she poisoned you to turn you against me? Our family has been devastated by that girl." "Stop," James shouted with increasing intensity. "Emily is unrelated to this. Your decisions and actions are the focus here. Get out of here." Yet Sarah remained motionless. "Dear James, my name is ______________________________________________________________________________________________________________________:__:_________________________________ I can't be removed from your life like that. People in a family never treat each other that way." James made a firm, dismissive noise as he shook his head. "Families look out for one another. Family members do not control, manipulate, or cause harm. Get out of here, my mother." Sarah, seeing that she was failing to communicate with him, shifted her attention to the vehicle. Her gaze was fixed on mine even though she was far away. James moved swiftly to block her way as she advanced toward the driveway. "Don't," he said, his voice measured and stern. For an instant, Sarah's expression was a blend of fury and grief as she met his gaze. And then, her shoulders sagging in defeat, she said, "You're going to regret this." And then she turned and walked away. James remained motionless, observing until she disappeared from view. I went to take his hand as he got back into the driver's seat of the automobile when he eventually came back to it. "Are you okay?" Quietly, I inquired. Despite his serious expression, he nodded. "Actually, I am. I believe this is the first time." "I am, in fact." We had a feeling of tranquility that had not been felt in years during the subsequent weeks. We dove headfirst into getting ready for the baby's arrival, and Sarah stopped trying to get in touch with us. Attending parenting classes, finishing the nursery, and leaning on one another like never before were all priorities for us. It was the most joyous occasion of our life when our daughter Lily was born. An overwhelming sense of love washed over me as I held her delicate, flawless body in my arms. As he kissed her forehead, James sat down next to me, his eyes gleaming with tears. Max, who has always been a devoted friend, would enthusiastically wag his tail any time she was in her presence, as if he could sense her unique significance. Being a parent has its own unique set of difficulties, but it has also shed light on things. Together, James and I promised Lily that we would provide her with a nurturing home, one that is no longer burdened by the poison that once hung over us. Our opportunity to create something novel had arrived, and we would not squander it. After a few months, word got around among Sarah's relatives that she had left town. The rumor mill was full of speculation that she had accepted a job at a superstore in an effort to alleviate her financial struggles. Though James was upset by the news, he had no desire to contact. The object served as a sobering reminder to him of the gravity of her choices. For my part, I felt a sense of finality. Although I made an effort to mend fences with Sarah, I eventually came to terms with the fact that some relationships are just not meant to be. James and I were starting a family, and that was my first priority right now. A loving, respectful, and trustworthy family. James gently took hold of my hand one night as we sat on the couch, Lily peacefully slumbering in her crib, saying, "Thank you for everything." He spoke with a soft voice and a gentle face, "For being there for me even though I was a terrible person. Your role as my mother and partner has been invaluable." My grin at him was accompanied with a few stinging tears. "We've overcome many obstacles as a team, James. It's important for that." As his tail tapped softly on the floor, Max leaned his head on my lap. As a reassuring reminder of how far we had gone, the room was filled with the gentle sound of Lily's breathing. It had been what seemed like an eternity since I had experienced such tranquility. I had faith that we could overcome any obstacles that came our way if we were united.
My name is Sophia. I'm 32, and, until recently, I thought I was living the dream, a cozy suburban life with my husband, Matthew. Our whirlwind romance had been the stuff of fairy tales. I still remember our first date as if it were yesterday. "You're different from anyone I've ever met," Matthew said, his eyes sparkling with sincerity. "Well, I hope that's a good thing," I replied, blushing. Fast forward 3 years, and we were happily married, settled into our little slice of paradise. Everything seemed perfect, until it wasn't. It started with small things, feeling tired all the time, dizzy spells hitting me out of nowhere. At first, I brushed it off. Probably just stress, I told Matthew. But then I began losing weight, and not in a good way. My clothes hung off me like they belonged to someone else. I could see the concern etched on Matthew's face. "Babe, maybe we should see a doctor," he suggested one morning as I struggled to get out of bed. Too exhausted to argue, I nodded. What followed was a frustrating parade of doctor's appointments. Each visit left me with the same empty reassurance. Mrs. Thompson, all your tests are normal. Matthew was by my side through every step, holding my hand and offering comforting words. We'll figure this out, he said. Then came dinner at Matthew's parents' house, a gathering I had been dreading. Harper, his picture-perfect mother, greeted us at the door, her scrutinizing eyes scanning me. Sophia, dear, she cooed, you're looking thin. Just under the weather, I replied with a forced smile. George, Matthew's father, barely glanced up from his phone. Hope it's nothing serious, he muttered. Amelia, Matthew's younger sister, was the only one who seemed genuinely concerned. Have you seen a specialist? She asked over dessert. I nodded, pushing food around my plate. Several. But no one can figure it out. That's when I noticed it, a fleeting glance between Matthew and his family. The atmosphere shifted, tension thick and oppressive. Harper's saccharine voice broke the silence. I'm sure it's nothing a little diet and exercise can't fix, she chirped. Have you tried yoga, dear? I bit my tongue, resisting the urge to snap back. Matthew squeezed my hand under the table, but it no longer felt reassuring. On the drive home, I stared out the window, unable to shake the feeling that something was wrong. You okay? Matthew asked, his eyes fixed on the road. Just tired, I lied. The days dragged on, and my health continued to decline. I spent most of my time in bed, the walls of our home feeling more like a prison. Matthew's absences grew longer and more frequent. Work's running late, he'd say, or Mom needs help with something. Too drained to argue, I let it slide. One afternoon, Harper showed up unannounced, her presence suffocating. Sophia, dear, she said, her tone sweet yet cutting, don't you think it's time to pull yourself together? Excuse me? I asked, stunned. Well, she continued, examining her manicure, this illness of yours. It seems a bit convenient, doesn't it? My jaw dropped. Are you suggesting I'm faking it? Harper shrugged, a sly smile playing on her lips. If the shoe fits. After she left, I lay in bed fuming. Then I heard Matthew downstairs, his voice low and angry. I can't keep doing this, he hissed. She's always sick. It's becoming such a burden. My heart shattered. Was I nothing more than a burden now? That evening, Hannah, my kind neighbor, knocked on my door. I thought you could use some company, she said, holding up a bag of groceries. Hannah quickly became my lifeline, helping with errands and keeping me company. One day, she brought up her brother. Anthony's a toxicologist, she said. Maybe he could take a look at your case. Dr. Anthony Chen was unlike any doctor I'd met. He listened intently, his kind eyes serious. Sophia, he said after reviewing my symptoms, I'd like to run some comprehensive tests. I have a suspicion. Days later, his office called with the results. Hannah drove me there, holding my hand as I sat on edge. When Dr. Chen walked in, his face was grim. Sophia, he began, your tests show high levels of arsenic in your system. The words didn't register at first. Arsenic? But? How? Dr. Chen's voice softened. It appears you've been systematically poisoned. The floor seemed to vanish beneath me. Poisoned? By who? Suddenly, it all clicked. The tension at family dinners, Matthew's growing distance, his family's behavior, the illness that had stolen my life. The perfect husband. The perfect life. It had all been a lie. As Hannah hugged me, trying to offer comfort, I felt something shift inside. The shock and pain were still there, but beneath them, a spark of anger ignited. Someone had done this to me, and I wasn't going to sit idly by anymore. The truth hit me like a ton of bricks. I had to fight back. With newfound determination, I began searching the house while Matthew was away. There's got to be something, I muttered, rifling through drawers and cabinets. My search led me to his workshop in the garage. Hidden behind old paint cans, I found it, a stash of arsenic-based pesticides. My hands shook as I picked up one of the bottles. This can't be happening. I called Hannah, my voice trembling. I need your help. Together we set up hidden cameras around the house. Hannah showed me how to access the feeds on my phone. Are you sure about this? She asked, worry etched on her face. I nodded, grimly resolute. I need to know the truth. Days passed as I watched Matthew's every move. Then, one evening, I saw it. He was in the kitchen, carefully measuring something from a small vial into my evening tea. My heart sank. My world shattered. That night, I confronted him, my phone secretly recording in my pocket. "Matthew," I began, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "What have you been putting in my food?" He froze, his eyes wide. "What are you talking about?" "Don't lie to me," I said firmly. "I know about the arsenic." His face crumpled, and he fell to his knees, sobbing. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. They made me do it." "Who? Your family?" I spat, disgusted. "So you decided to poison me." "It wasn't supposed to be like this," he blubbered. "We were just going to make you look unstable. Then I'd divorce you, and no one would question it." I took a step back, repulsed. "You're all monsters." Grabbing my pre-packed bag, I fled to Hannah's house. She hugged me tightly as I broke down. "We've got the evidence now," she reassured me. "They can't hurt you anymore." But Matthew's family wasn't done. The next day, my phone blew up with messages. Mutual friends bombarded me with screenshots of social media posts. Matthew's family had launched a full-scale smear campaign. "Sophia has always been unstable," Harper wrote in a widely shared post. "We tried to help her, but she refused treatment and ran away. We're all still worried." I felt like I was going to be sick. How can they do this? "They won't get away with it," Hannah said fiercely, squeezing my hand. "We'll fight back. We have the truth on our side." My resolve hardened. They messed with the wrong woman. Months passed as I slowly began to rebuild my life. Hannah's spare room became my sanctuary, a place to heal. With the fog of illness lifting, I discovered a strength I never knew I had. "You're looking better every day," Hannah remarked one morning. I smiled, the feeling genuine for the first time in ages. "I feel better. I feel like me again." With my newfound energy, I sought out opportunities to move forward. At the local community center, I found purpose. They were hiring, and during my interview, something clicked. "We'd love to have you on board," the director said, shaking my hand. "Your experience could really help our abuse survivors." It felt right, using my pain to help others. There was still unfinished business. One evening, Dr. Chen arrived at Hannah's house, a determined look in his eyes. "Sophia, I've been thinking," he began. "That pesticide Matthew used, it's illegal. If George's company has been using it." I caught on quickly. We could report them to the EPA. The anonymous tip set off a domino effect. Within weeks, the news broke of a massive investigation into George's company. Environmental violations on an unprecedented scale. The newscaster reported, "CEO George Thompson has been arrested." Hannah and I sat in stunned silence as the broadcast detailed the company's downfall. Frozen assets, ruined reputations, and mounting legal charges. "They're finally getting what they deserve," Hannah said softly. I nodded, a mix of emotions swirling inside me, relief, closure, and something I couldn't quite name. As days passed, more news trickled in. Matthew, now broke and desperate, had turned to gambling. "He owes money to some dangerous people," a mutual friend confided. "It's not looking good." Then came word about Harper. A stress-induced stroke had landed her in the hospital. When I heard the news, I thought I'd feel vindicated. Instead, I felt nothing. They were reaping what they had sown, and for once, I didn't have to lift a finger. One day, my phone buzzed with an unexpected name, Amelia. "Sophia." Her voice cracked on the other end. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea what they were doing. Can we talk?" I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Amelia, I appreciate the apology, but I can't let any of you back into my life. I hope you understand." There was a pause. "I do," she said quietly. "Take care, Sophia." A week later, the final blow came. Matthew had been hospitalized after a random attack. No one believed it was random. "Probably those loan sharks," Hannah mused. "Karma's a well, you know." I replied with a faint nod. The chapter of my life with Matthew and his family was finally closed. A year later, I stood before a group of women at the domestic abuse shelter, my voice steady and strong. "I know it feels hopeless now," I said, meeting their eyes. "But you're stronger than you know. You can rebuild. You can thrive." As I spoke, I saw flickers of hope in their faces, some tearful, others determined. It hit me then. The Sophia who had lived in that perfect illusion was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, wiser, and fiercely committed to helping others find their way out of the darkness. "Remember," I said, my voice filled with conviction, "your story doesn't end with them. It begins when you choose yourself. As the session ended, the women filed out. Some paused to hug me, others whispered their thanks. A sense of peace washed over me. The road had been long and painful, but I had made it. Now I was helping others find their way too. Now I ask you, if you were in Sophia's position, would you have accepted Amelia's apology and attempt at reconciliation? Or do you think Sophia made the right choice in cutting off all contact with Matthew's family, even those who claimed ignorance?